and possibility of a concept of total of reality depends on possibility in reality. So refers to experience. Reply not unless it is possible in all worlds 109. Proof of God. Kant. 3. Plato. Physico-theological proof of God. Modified. The ground of the argument is determinate experience of things in the present world. Kant objection. How can any experience be adequate with an idea? By definition, an idea cannot have any experience that is adequate to it. Idea of necessary and all-sufficient being is so immeasurably 4. Great, too high above the empirical. Supreme being must be a member of the empirical series of conditions, else how can you link it, an intelligent being, to the series? All laws respecting the regress from effects to causes relate solely to possible experience and the objects of the sensible world and are meaningless otherwise. Something must exist that is primal and self-subsistent and secures the continuance and preservation of the phenomenal world. Wonders of the world as beyond words. It must be great, and we ascribe to it degree of perfection above all else that is possible. Kant objects. Have no concept, determinate, of God here except having all perfections. Since need, impossible, perfect insight into the relation which the world you contemplate bears to omnipotence, into order and conformity to ends in the world, to highest wisdom, and that of the unity of the world to unity of supreme being. Kant's objection, but God may have been limited to matter pre-existing and not be able to create matter, only form. Plato. Use this, it extends our knowledge of nature, by directing our attention to a unity, principle which lies beyond nature. Knowledge of nature reacts again against this idea, its cause, and proves the existence of a divine author of the universe. Unity of cause inferred from unity of parts in the world. So assume existence of necessary being from contingency of the world from the order and conformity to ends that are observable in it. Then advance from concept of the absolute necessity of the first cause to be completely determined concept there of the concept of an all-embracing reality. Kant objection. Explain the ideal, which is entirely a product of pure reason, by illustrations drawn from experience, in a degree unworthy, entirely, of their object. All three ways are the only possible ways for speculative reason. And really only ontological one is possible if any proof is possible 110, proof of God, author. Speed. God is right before our eyes all the time. He just moves too fast for us to see. So record events all around you all the time and slow it down by several fold to see God. Microscope is for little things. Create a speedoscope to see things moving too fast. Also for too slow you speed them up. 111, proof of God, Aristotle, author, etc. Universe has origin. Matter / antimatter collision resulting in extermination proves that the world is not eternal, and that is against Aristotle's view. But Aristotle also had that what? 5. As an end must have a beginning, and that nothing can create itself. So we add that there must be a creator of the world 112, proof of God, Copernicus, Descartes, Kant, Darwin. Critique of Kant, Copernican revolution. 1. Necessary existent. 2. God. Kant denied philosophical proof is possible of the necessary existent or God. Critique. But one method is if there is something which must exist in all possible would, and since we exist. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Then some would exist which at least includes our mind. Something certainly exists. There are 4 cases. 1. I am the cause of mind. 2. I have no cause. 3. Something external. 4. A combination of 1 and 3. 1. If I am the cause of my mind, then it can only be one part causing the other, and some will in turn require external causes and thus cannot go to infinity. So need necessary existent outside me, i.e., uncaused cause. Reciprocal causality can only create my nature once its components are existing. It cannot be that two things cause each other to exist on their own. That is, circular causality, which is impossible. Only possible to sustain essence. One must come into existence before the other to bring its existence, or vice versa. But need both, which is impossible unless come into existence at the same time, but can't since need the other first. 2. I have no cause. Then I am necessary existent. But I can see I have many causes every day, e.g. need energy. So I can perish any day or be destroyed. So the cause of my existence is removable. So I have a cause, since if I had no cause then it could not be removed and I could not be destroyed. So I must have an external cause, and so on till arrive at uncaused cause, necessary existent. Since can't go to infinity. 3. Something external is the cause of my mind, since we showed it cannot be 1. My own cause, or 2. No cause. It must come from outside, and this cannot go to infinity. So need an outside necessary being, uncaused cause. For my cause can be partly myself and partly something external, but case 1 and case 3 showed need an external cause, as did case 2. So all 4 cases show that an uncaused being exists, and since this cannot go to infinity, it follows that a necessary being exists. Our proof is better than Avicenna or Alfarabi's proof. So Kant is wrong, a proof is possible. The question remains, is the necessary being or uncaused cause the world itself, or God, or nature? What has no cause for its existence cannot have parts, since it would require causes to hold it together, or at least its parts 6 must be uncaused. So is the world made of uncaused parts? But if the world is the uncaused cause, then the world always existed. But then it existed for an infinite time, and infinity cannot be gone through to arrive at this time. So it didn't exist at one point. But it is uncaused. So it isn't, or it existed outside time. But no real object can exist outside time. So it didn't exist at one point and requires a cause, and so on till reach uncaused cause, or maybe world exists in a different kind of time dimension from our, i.e., the present is an instant of infinite duration, so time does not flow in the world but all exists simultaneously like space dimensions do, as relativity implies. But that would presuppose determinism, and this is false, because by thesis of antimony 3 of Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, freedom is possible. So if the world has uncaused cause, then how did it reach the present time? Some believe that God also came into existence. If so, then why not the world also? And then he wouldn't be uncaused cause. There are virtually infinite stars in the universe, and they came into existence, and physics suggests that they came into existence at different places. But can go faster than light at explosion? It is more logical to assume one being, God, came into existence than almost infinite and he created them. But uncaused being cannot come into existence. Aristotle held time cannot be created nor destroyed, no. But against Newton, with Aristotle, if time had nothing to measure, then it did not exist. Then it would truly not be a real thing. Anyway, the world came into existence billions of years ago, either by God, so he exists, or revolutionize Darwin's revolutionary theory and say that God will evolve over the billions of years to become God from a lower form, just as man has evolved. Many people deny design argument for the existence of God, saying the world could have arisen by chance given enough time, and the world is very old. So it is no surprise despite its perfection. So reply by your assumptions, then God too could have evolved since had enough time for that too. Darwin delayed publication because he felt he went against religion. But really he helped give one of best proofs for the existence of God and did not know it. He misled many people. Darwin generalized Aristotle's idea of animals adapting to environment to say can change essence of animal and change species or kingdoms. We add that it can keep going higher than man also. Either way God exists. Even if they were right still. Copernican revolution. The world creating God, not God creating world. Revolution of Darwin's revolution of Aristotle. 7. 113. Proof of God. Author. Infinity. Super revolution. Can travel infinity at infinite speed. The world cannot have existed forever, so it was created. It cannot have gone through infinite time to reach the present. Nor can we have gone through infinite space from our point of origin to get here. But how can the Creator have gone through infinite time and maybe space to get to this point? The solution is that God, unlike us or the world, exists in time, contrary to all philosophers' views, but he is pure incorporeal spirit, and only his spirit exists, and his spirit does infinite things at a time. So that time travels at an infinite speed in God. So that as far as God is concerned, an infinite number of presence instants of finite time have passed but to reach this time which is possible only for God. So God exists. For Aristotle, time measures motion or change. Time is an accident on motion, change, as Maimonides describes Aristotle's view. But change in God is infinite, so in God time travels with infinite speed. Finite sum of infinite speed instance is infinite. Thesis, only something, which we call God by necessity, can account for the world or anything existing. Sense needs something moving, changing at infinite speed to cover infinite time to the present. At infinite speed. God, not nature. Unlike God we believe to be immutable, no changing at all. It is tempting to use Einstein's speed limit on corporeal objects to prove needs spiritual object. But don't -- 114, proof of God, revised Kant. Antimony, 2, and 4, of Kant's Dialectic of Pure Reason section. Elements can show we cannot be divided to infinity but have basic elements at the most fundamental level. Indivisible or without parts or simple, and can trace the cause of the existence of all these elements to an external powerful being, which is God. They only hold together because of some fundamental forces to keep the essence of the composite substance. God makes them exist -- 115, proof of God, revise Kant. Antimony, 1, and 3. Freedom exists in the world. But also God has the power associated with the need to create the universe and virtually infinite number of stars. And it must be an act of freedom, since otherwise it would require a previous cause and so on to infinity. But Aristotle would say that no free act is needed, since the world always existed, yet only God and not the world could have traversed infinite time to arrive at this present moment. Contrary to Aristotle. 8. - 116, proof of God, Kepler, unknown. Science. Hidden universe. Physicists have discovered that stars do not obey Kepler's laws of motion, as they do for planets, unless assumed that have dark matter. So have a transcendental world. List the 3 laws. Cannot be antimatter, since that is visible -- 117, proof of God, unknown. Science. Origin of universe. Ratio. Can not explain going from equal distribution of matter and antimatter to an unequal distribution of matter and antimatter. Most physicists don't accept that there was much more matter than antimatter at origin of universe. Yet it seems that that is the case, since observe much more matter than antimatter today. God is the cause of origin of matter. Can explain observed ratio if start from equal matter and antimatter - 118, proof of God, Einstein. Science. Unified field theory. Complexity and simplicity. This incredibly complex universe had been reduced by physicists to a very few forces and very few kind of particles already, and they believe it can be reduced to one force and one particle even in unified field theories. Despite virtually infinite kinds of objects in the world and virtually infinite kinds of interactions between objects, it seems to be the fingerprint of God. The world should have been haphazard if it arose by chance. It should have had many particles obeying many laws. There are 5 forces in the Standard Model. It unified the weak and electromagnetic forces. Need to unify it with gravity. And have 2 kinds of particles, leptons and quarks -- 119, proof of God, Einstein, unknown. Science. Spiritual God. Mass. Less particles. Neutrinos are very light and weigh at most 1,000,000 times less than even the electron. And electrons are 1,000 times lighter than protons or neutrons. So are neutrinos massless. Does that just prove that the gap between matter and energy is much smaller, thus making it much more likely that a transformation between them is possible? If so, it would make the world to be energy really. God made it out of energy. Matter from energy is possible. Is that experimental confirmation of Einstein's energy equation? People believe only corporeal things can exist according to Maimonides. Are fields really particles of low energy? Perhaps very small particles? Have theory that God is a spirit. But virtually massless particles exist which are therefore very godlike in matter. They are very spiritual. So it none does not leave a far leap to believe that spiritual substances like God exist. 120. Proof of God, Spinoza, Heisenberg. Science. Esoteric nature of God. We could never do experiments beyond the Planck scale, which is the reciprocal of 10 to the power 35. We can only predict things about nature at that level from our world. So really we do not know the world around us. It is an illusion that we can. Our lack of power in our senses gives us the illusion that we see the world. We have to see its basic elements to see it. Yet we cannot even with the most powerful microscopes. So if Spinoza is right and the world is modes in God's attributes of extension and thought, then God cannot be fully known by us. As expected, since philosophers have been saying that. So the world, including ourselves, are beyond our comprehension and perceptions. And God could be right before our eyes all the time without implying a limit on his power or nature. We just don't know it. If science is limited, then must flow into philosophy to solve their problems. The philosopher can't also put the soul, God and the world beyond experience, even if his claims are far out. The basis of the universe may be unknowable. 121. Proof of God, Descartes, Kant, etc. I have idea of God or of perfect being. This idea can only come from God. So God must exist. Kant argues that the ideas of necessity and universality cannot come from experience. If so, how would Kant explain that we have such ideas? Do they come from God? If so, then God exists. Kant would resist such a conclusion. Also, all the categories and intuitions and principles are a priori and don't come from experience according to Kant. Our intellect or intuition gives them. But where could they get such power, since it is not from experience? But can infer them from experience. But experience is not needed. Is it inherited? Aristotle's theory of tabula rasa. We are born with an empty slate as regards knowledge. Or our intellect only needs time to develop. Ideas of necessity and universality cannot be said about things in the world, but these concepts can be inherited. Really reduce Kant's list to 3 classes of categories: quantity, quality, and relation. The category of mode is quality. Then the pure intuitions of space and time. Mode is quantity of qualities. In Antinomies he mentions universality from 1, and necessity from 2, and causality from 3, and space-time from 4. Maimonides said that time is an accident of motion, which is an accident of bodies. Bodies can have matter other than the matter that we 10. No. They are substances comprised of matter and form instead of substances comprised of form only in Aristotle's system. 122. Proof of God, Star Hunter Show. A person said that a woman had second level of divine gene activities. Since she knew things she could only know if she had vision of hyperspace. So there may be people who can prove they saw God by what they say. Not by proving a proof from God. Not by miracles. not by making a prediction which is verified much later in time. Revolution in theology. How can you prove it is only from God? Ideas from God. Coincidences, if you are at the right place and the right time unexpectedly against great odds. You may conclude that God must have played a role in this happening by probability theory. But also, how is a divine idea or sense data different from one we have or from our world? Descartes believed we all had the idea of God and could get it only from God. A general remark. Now add particular cases 123, proof of God, revised Drake, Roddenberry. With billions of stars in the universe with many planets as a result, then see if we have a God ruling over this planet. But you can also look at virtually infinite planets in search of a God which rules over the planet, star system, galaxy, cluster of galaxies, or universe, or multiverse. Not many gods, just one more powerful than believed. Ruling universe and not single planet only. It is not easy to rule thousands or millions of planets if we will one day move to the stars. Also, the universe is large enough for paradise 124, proof of God, Aristotle, Revise Reeves. Philosophy. Science. Nature, arts, towards an end. Proof based on end. According to Aristotle, nature acts for an end and does nothing in vain. So if he was right, then the world or universe should approach its end or dream. But according to physicist, scientist, Hubert Reeves, this doesn't seem to be the case. We know there are the nuclear forces, electromagnetic forces, and gravitational forces. Did he include strong and weak forces together, or is weak with electromagnetic? Reeves says that 1. The dream of the nuclear force is to transform everything to iron. 2. The dream of the electromagnetic force is to transform everything to noble elements. The rare elements resist reacting with others since they are stable. 3. The dream of the gravitational force is to transform everything to 11. Black holes. But all these are rare in the universe. So why does nature fail to achieve these goals? In fact, the universe is believed to be over 10 billion years old, so it had enough time already to achieve it or get close to achieving it. Conclusion. So must we add a divine science up in the cosmos besides physical science? 1. So that a higher being regulates the heavens. Or 2. Proves that the universe had a creator since it did not exist billions of years. But are there opposing forces of nature so that we get equilibrium? The forces are the laws of motion of matter 125, proof of God, Aristotle, Darwin. Darwin paradox. On the one hand, living beings are very similar. The same chemicals, etc. On the other hand, living beings are very different. Different species with animals like fish, dogs, dinosaurs, snakes, amoeba, birds, man, etc. So the universe would have to be very old and life to have emerged very long ago, even if much later, in order for life to have evolved to reach the present state. But it is not old enough. So life must have been created by God. They say the earth is 4 billion years old. Why did Aristotle deny mutations which change the essence of life forms? Is it because of his theory of eternal 4 kinds of forces from the cosmic spheres? The mineral force, the vegetative force, the animal force, and the intellectual force. If so, then it is no longer applicable 126, proof of God, unknown. Spiritual world. People have a soul. So, the world is not totally material. Sodium amytal knocks out half of the brain and helps to localize function. But you can knock out the left hemisphere and the person is still conscious, and can knock out the right hemisphere instead and the person is still conscious. So need a soul above the brain. If knock out both hemispheres, then the soul may sleep or go to another world, since it uses the brain as a tool. Unlike the eyes, you are thought. Problem, split brain. Two hemispheres separated and don't know of each other. Yet both work and do more even. Solution, one is conscious and the other is a computer only 127, Proof of God, Aristotle, Smith, Darwin. Environment. Critique of Aristotle and Darwin, the suitability of animals to the environment is proof. 12. Of design, not survival of the fittest and mutation. You didn't have a few species which evolved to meet environmental conditions. God created virtually infinite kinds of species. He of course put them in environment for which they were compatible. He wouldn't create animals and put them where they would die. Example, put fish outside of water at creation. It takes a while to mutate. They had a capitalistic view of the animal world also. Like Adam Smith. Survival of the fittest. Competition 128, Proof of God, Roddenberry. Science fiction. Perhaps STHE. Greatest theology of the 20th century. Even though it is really the opinions of hundreds of people and has no unique view about God. It is even greater that it is on television. Even a miracle that it made it on television and so successful 129, Proof of God, Maimonides. Sociology. Analyze religion. The divine nature of religion and try to prove it came from God. Compatibility with the knowledge of the time included. Like philosophy and medicine. Now have science, engineering, law, and art 130, Proof of God, Nietzsche. Ethics. Old values prove inadequate. They originated from Christian view of world. Need to re-evaluate our values and create our own individual set of values. Progress in society 131, Proof of God, revise Nietzsche. Worship. He says that God is too extreme a hypothesis. No. It just means God is awesome and so it is possible to worship him 132, Proof of God, unknown. Cloning. While creating a life by joining. People using procreation is great, we need cloning to create the same person. So he can live forever as needed for paradise. They first cloned a vegetable, then they cloned a sheep, and later even a dog. Is cloning a human being going to be the next step? 133, Proof of God, unknown. Worship. Need a temple for God. There are, and there have been, great men and great women with talent to sing and praise God exist and have technology to make it heard worldwide instantly 134, Proof of God, unknown. Love. The love between people has existed for centuries or millennia despite great problems of life. We need 13. Love for paradise. Love is a great pleasure and a reason to live. Love is just appreciation of physical or spiritual beauty. A woman can make you fall, but a woman can also save you 135, Proof of God, revise Reeves. Science. Expansion of the universe. Had the universe expanded slowly, then nothing would have formed except the three dreams of the three forces. No variety of life or any life. We don't know why it didn't expand faster. Since originally both gravity and the nuclear force apply and we have no unified field theory 136, Proof of God, revise Reeves. Science. Order. The second law of thermodynamics says that the universe goes towards disorder. Yet organisms develop from quarks and electrons. Nuclei to atoms to molecules to cells to organisms 137, Proof of God, revise Reeves. Science. Chemical reactions. Light from the sun is exactly what is needed to allow stable elements to go back and forth into unstable elements. So keep disparity despite electromagnetic force 138, Proof of God, Revise Reeves. Science. Other life. Analysis seems to show other galaxies are similar to our own galaxy in nature. So likely have life there as well. But maybe more intelligent life than ourselves. 139. Proof of God, Darwin. Elite natural selection. Critique of Darwin. If Darwin was right, then the elite in humanity may have disappeared. Since natural selection requires fitness for the environment, and the needs of the elite, like the weaker people, are hard to meet since they are rare members of a species, or are there several subspecies, depend on each other, and goods of elite are not sought out by many people, example Einstein's masterpiece, or Maimonides' masterpiece. So it is hard for the elite to earn a living and survive or find a suitable mate. But they have survived. So there must be providence. A supernatural force which made this possible. 140, Proof of God, Revise Aristotle. Prime mover. We should add a revised version of Aristotle's long proof for the existence of the prime mover, which is one theory of God. The law of inertia is not absolute. The object will not keep moving on its own forever if no external force acts on it. 14. Really should also revise law of inertia in that motion will change only when sufficient force or energy is provided or lost. No Big Bang. The point of origin is just the limiting point of the galaxy or cluster of galaxies or universe where the stars turn, since the galaxy or universe is rotating. The universe may need a prime mover. Recall that they do not obey Kepler's laws of motion. 141, Proof of God, Revise Maimonides. Prime mover. We should add a revised version of Maimonides' proof, exceedingly long proof of the existence of the prime mover, which is one theory of God. Add his theory of attributes also. Again, the law of inertia is not absolute. It will not move forever if left on its own, though gravitational waves or light waves in the cosmos may provide minimal friction away from stars and planets and moons. No Big Bang. The point of origin is really the boundary of the universe or cluster of galaxies. Einstein believed that the universe was spherical. 142, Proof of God, Radhakrishnan. All religions progress to unity. The greatest proof of religion is deep reflection shows the unity of spiritual aspiration and endeavor underlying the varied upwards paths